All of the records I've made are kind of about conceptions of space. Intersex is looking at the body and shifting forms of that, you know, how gender or sexuality can be flowing and into different directions. With re-engineering, it's just kind of looking at this flows in the world and then relationships between like finance, ecology, nature, technology. I initially wanted to be a filmmaker when I was 17 and went to study film. And then they closed the faculty. So I just went to another university and started studying in a fine art context. But I'd already had a semester of being trained how to work a 16mm or Super 8 or film loops and cutting film and projecting it, or using Premiere, or, you know, also learning film language. At Nottingham Trent, it was very much about mixing. Like, they didn't want you to specialize. So that had a huge effect on me. I feel like the filmic, cinematic consciousness or like ideas of cinema have really influenced the way I make music and visual art. I have this filmic approach, or cinematic or whatever, and I can suddenly, you know, it can kind of become sculptural, or it can become performative, or I could make a painting, but it's kind of a prop. It just opened me up to being like, yeah, I could do some paintings, but they're not paintings. They're just kind of elements. In like conceptual art, you've got these, like the neo-concrete group in South America, like Helio Atitzica or Ligia Paba. They're kind of creating situations and environments and installations. When I was at art school, you know, I read a lot of Dan Graham, or, you know, I was into his work. There's one piece he did where he's in front of a very big mirror and he has his back to the crowd, but they can see him in the mirror, and he's just kind of talking about what he's doing in real time. You're just seeing a mediation of it, even though it's right in front of you. But then because you see his back, you're still seeing these gestures.
They're out akimbo, making triangles between my head on both sides and the elbows. On the other side. Yeah, the hair seems a little bit disheveled, not cut that properly. Dark.
What I really liked about it is then, you know, growing up with a computer or media, like, it's about how we experience something in, well, the physicality, but then also when it's abstracted.
Showing as I walk back, stomach tends to stick out just a tiny amount.
When I play, I mean, funnily enough, I'd rather people don't really watch me. It's important to know that I'm doing it, but it's not important to like watch it in this like concert setting, like being in a club where you don't look at the DJ, like the focus is then on the dance floor. Bodies are like, they're like atoms like colliding around, and you know, things happen. I think a lot with the spatial aspect has been influenced from being in Berlin for so long, where, you know, parties on the weekend can be an entire weekend long. You could listen to dub, or you could listen to minimal techno, or you could listen to house, or all of these different genres. At first you're like, oh, it's kind of like 4 hours of this, but then you listen to it and then there's all these transitions which are quite intricate. And that had a massive effect in the way that I structure sound. This performance I did at the Villa is kind of an extension from the extended play series I occasionally do. And they can take place in either, you know, a club space, or in a, you know, more like an art space or a cinema. The idea is that it's like a multi-room installation where you like walk around and then all the elements feed into each other. Almost like a film set where you have props which people can have a, you know, establish a connection with. It's basically to do with kind of constructing a situation and then letting elements of it kind of unfold. and unfold over a specific amount of time, so it becomes kind of durational. But then even in this situation which has been defined by these blocks of time, there's moments inside which feel longer or something, where your conception of space and time becomes abstracted. In the villa, it's quite distant from everything and it's on a hill. When I would go out from my room and you've got the garden, you know, you can look and see Los Angeles and you can see the Pacific Ocean. You're just looking at the Pacific Ocean and then thinking, well, you know, fuck, you know, this is the biggest ocean in the world. I'd flown over the Pacific Ocean when I went from Australia to South America, and that took about 19 hours. I was reading a lot of philosophy which was dealing with, you know, conceiving space. Like a lot of Manuel de Landa, which was talking about intensive and extensive, you know, like kind of going on further from Deleuze. And you know, the virtual time and all of this. Whilst I was reading that, I would be in a plane. And it kind of started to freak me out a bit, because you're on a plane and then reading about space and time travel, and you know, you're going through all of these time zones. It suddenly became a bit as if there was no escape. So it kind of became a bit claustrophobic at the time, and on top of it, I had to give interviews which were mostly in GMT or Central European time, or in like, you know, like New York time. It'd be like 4 in the morning and I'd be talking to someone and it'd be lunchtime, or 4 p.m. in the evening or something. And it started completely, you know, it started to like overload in my head, I think.